Hello, everyone. Welcome to the live stream. Um, I'm really tired, but I'm very happy. It's been a very busy few days. Ever since the Jeff Mara podcast, well, things have been very busy for me, and I am so glad to see it. You know, biggest thanks in the world to Jeff Mara podcast. They do such a great job, and I'm sorry, the glasses. Um, they do a great job and they treat you so well. He's a friend of mine now, and I am just so happy that we did that. It's brought some real attention to this issue in a positive way, and I'm just very grateful for all of you who have come over here from Jeff Mars podcast, from seeing me and deciding to support me and um, give me all of that positive energy that I thrive on. So I just can't say enough about Jeff Mara, and a big welcome to all my new subscribers. Um, I'm glad that you're here, even though not many of you are here. It's okay. I kind of sprung this on you at the last minute, so it's not your fault. Um, so I have a list of topics I want to talk about, and then also if anybody wants to chat or anything, we could do that too. Um, I want to say welcome to all my new subscribers and all my patrons. Um, we have there's three tiers, but we have the true believers are Wayne Peterson, Paul Bellett. The dedicated Skywatcher is Chris Engel. Hi, Chris. Um, and we have a couple of free members, Andrea Lancaster, Earth Alchemy, and Emily Howard. Hi, thank you for joining in. Um, so, what I wanted to talk about today primarily was I want to get down to some brass tacks on some things. Hi, Chrissy. Nice. I knew you'd be here. Nice to see you. Um, so I wanted to get down to some brass tacks on some issues. Um, so people say that we want disclosure, and I'm with that, obviously, right? Um, and by the way, I just want to say this live stream is being sponsored by Beneath the Haunted Sky, the evidence for alien abduction, and you can get it in the links in the description. I'm not very good at that, but I'll get better. Um, but so we say we want disclosure, but what is necessary for disclosure is acceptance, right? It's acceptance of the idea that these beings exist and that they come here and have interacted with human beings. This is necessary. That psychological acceptance is what is paramount, right? To Because once people accept, well, then now you can tell them, right? That's the way the order works. Is that first we kind of have to accept an idea before we can be given it. We have to have a context. So that's where things like my book come in, my evidence come in, my science comes in, and so does other people's who are challenging this mainstream narrative because we're being led down the wrong path in many ways. We're being led down the wrong path informationally, but also scientifically, philosophically. Um, we are really, really short in a lot of areas. And this shows, doesn't it? Because how many people, I said this on another live stream, I think, but like 95% of people believe in God, but only like 1 in 5 believe in extraterrestrials, and there's far more evidence for extraterrestrials. So I'm not attacking religion or anything. I'm just saying that that's the facts. Like, if you want to believe in God, like, that's cool, man. I got no problem with that. But it's not evidence based, right? It's faith based. That's even what they say. So I don't think I'm talking out of school. And you guys behave back there. Be nice. I'm sorry, I have 3 cats, and only 2 of them like each other at a time, so I don't know how so, that might be more exciting than what I'm saying, actually. We'll tune in for the cat fights later. But in all seriousness, though, um, we have all of these issues of denial, but they're not based on evidence, right? They're based on psychology. It's based on the psychology of acceptance that you have, even if you like do believe in religion, God, or whatever, it had to be based on something. You were convinced of something that made you accept that idea. In fact, it made you accept that idea without even there having to be evidence. You said, I'll just use my faith. So why can't we get people to accept evidence-based things? It is psychological resistance. Yeah, psychological resistance. It is, we don't want it to be true. We're afraid for it to be true. Um, because most of the time when there is denial or psychological resistance, a lot of times it is based on fear, isn't it? So we have to be practical because it is much better to know if there's something to be afraid of than to be afraid to find out. There has to be a switch there that we can turn and that we can convince people to accept the idea that these beings exist. So, and the way that we do that is we have to create standards. And this is what I talk about in the book, as I'm sure Chris Engel, one of my patrons, knows, um, that if you want to be believed, then you have to try to provide evidence, no matter what kind of evidence that is. You have to try to provide some kind of evidence to back it up. But we have to make these people agree that they can be convinced by evidence, that we can have scientific standards, and that if this holds to the scientific standard, then we must accept the outcome of what that says. We must accept the result. This is what we have to do, is we have to talk sense. We have to talk science, you know, but we also have to talk clearly and specifically, and we have to hold to those things. If we Okay, I'm going to give you a perfect example. Okay, and some people may not like this, but MUFON. I am not a big fan of MUFON, and I used to be a field investigator, and that's why I'm not a fan anymore, because I saw how they were doing their investigations, and they, they don't make any sense. Like, they don't make any sense. I mean, and you don't have to take my word for it. I'll tell you how you can know. How many cases have they actually solved where they proved something? Zero. Zero. And the reason is because there's no scientific baseline for a definitive answer. The highest you can go is inconclusive. They they keep trying to shuffle the deck and move the goalposts to uh, to try to keep everyone from having to be held to a specific standard. Because tell me anywhere in science, tell me anywhere. I mean, I'm willing to learn. Tell me anywhere in science where they have a definitive criteria to draw a line between human and non-human. Where is the line? There isn't one. So, in Beneath the Haunted Sky, the evidence for alien abduction, I created a line. I created a line that you can follow, that makes sense, that holds to the scientific standard. That's not complicated. And we have to be able to get this down to brass tacks, and we have to be able to say, this is how we delineate human from non-human. I got this message so clearly when I was watching a news. It was like News Nation or something, and they were like, "Is the search for extraterrestrial life over?" Blah blah blah. You know how they do. And they had on Michio Kaku, and he was like, these things don't behave in a way that correspond with human craft. These things have to be made out of materials which human beings can't make. And then he says, oh, these things move at a rate of speed and at a velocity and with inertia that human pilots can't physically withstand. And then says, but we need evidence. Do you hear yourself, Michio Kaku? Do you hear yourself? Because you just said evidence. See, they're telling you the line, but saying it's not the line, though. Like, oh no, even if these things don't look like anything that correspond to our planet, like we're all stupid and don't know what planes and shit look like, right? Uh, so they say, oh, well, that's not evidence, which things could be misidentified. I've done it myself. It happens. Okay. But not everything. Not everything. And so but then he says, oh, these things move faster than our aircraft could travel. Yes, that is also evidence. Uh, you know, what else you got? Oh, well, human pilots couldn't fly these. Yeah. My man Michio seems to have a firm grasp of the obvious. Yeah. All except for the very last part. And it's the part where you go, hey, if it fits all these criterias, guess what it is? Non-human. Non-human. Non-human manufacturer, non-human origin, and non-human operation. That's what we have. Until further notice, until we find out differently, we have to assume that anything that doesn't correspond with humanity isn't human. I mean, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills sometimes. Like, does nobody see this? Is nobody going to call this out? The kitties are fine. Yeah. Yeah. They're having fun. See, what happens is they get bored and jealous, and so they mess with each other instead of me. So usually I'm the one they're beating up on, you know. I'm the main muffin station at my place, and I like it that way. I'm sorry, we got comments. You should go on some more podcasts, weaponized, Leto files, etc. Well, I go where I'm invited. I try to make myself available, but I go where I'm invited. I don't try to go on anything. You understand? That's not I don't work that way. Sorry. I don't work like that. If somebody wants me on their show, like I think I've only turned down 2 ever. And it was just I didn't feel like it was a good match of content. I think they were personally interested in talking to me, but I didn't think that their audience would be receptive like Jeff Mars is, you know. Going to buy your book. Thank you. I could use it. I want to see this book become #1. So we're raising awareness. When we raise awareness, we raise acceptance. When we raise acceptance, now we can get disclosure to people. Now we can get them to want disclosure too. That's how we do it. But we do this by creating a scientific standard that people can accept. It's science. It's simple science. These things are moving faster than human beings can move. If it's, more inertia than a pilot can stand. If you've never, ever seen anything even close to that ever, chances are it's not ours. And the chances are pretty much 100%. So we have to get people to just accept the fact so we can disclose the truth. And we do this by talking about it, by telling our true stories, by presenting our best evidence, and by holding science feet to the fire and say, are you going to be a scientist or not? Just, are you going to be a scientist and do actual science? Michio Kaku was sitting there pulling a little bit of a scam job on you. I like the guy. He's like the most likable person. But I hear your words and they don't make sense to me. These things don't correspond to human beings in any single particular way I can find. Huh, who knows? I guess we need more information. What are you talking about? That's crazy talk. That's the opposite of science. Okay. But I'll tell you something. I'm going to tell you a story. All right. I'm going to tell you a story. It's not my story. When I was in MUFON, they gave me like this huge stack of books to read, and they were the most fascinating things. I ended up losing them in water damage, which broke my heart. But these books were filled with sightings and abduction accounts. I mean, I was in heaven, you know, and I poured through every single one because I wanted to understand more about what was happening to me. That's why I joined MUFON. Was I was trying to investigate my own abduction and my own sightings, and I wanted a rubric to use so that I could conduct a real investigation. Now, I would go investigate other cases, and we can talk about those sometime. Um, that might make a good top above top secret tier thing. Is I can tell you about some of my cases, but the more when I used their metric, I was like, it doesn't. This doesn't make sense. That no, that's wrong. No, that like they would give people points based on what they did for a living for credibility, a credibility score. Like what? Well, a busboy and a police officer can both see the same damn thing. I hate to tell y'all that. You know what I mean? But it's just kind of like little bit of like this is not science, kind of class warfare kind of thing. That I guess only rich, pretty people can see important shit, right? I don't think so. If you get my book, you will see that just like a regular guy who's not even trying has captured 17 years of some of the best UFO evidence you can get, some of the best pictures. I have artifacts, I have drawings, I have pictures. I have, if you go, on this channel, I have videos. I have video of me just standing there waiting for something to show up, and then it shows up. Like it's evidence. And I know that my evidence proves, at least beyond a reasonable doubt, that these things exist. And that's just my story. And that's what I'm trying to say. It's we all need to get our stories out that have one, that have real experiences. If you have evidence you've been holding on to, this is the time to let it out. We need to create a wave of information where we're pushing the scientists. Enough of this, these guys tell us what to think. No. If you heard what I just said in the past 15 minutes and you can't agree with it, I mean, come on, right? And now, does that not make you look at these scientists differently? And you go, is that guy okay? Like, not only is he right or wrong, but are you all right? Do you hear yourself when you talk? Because what you just said contradicted itself. It seems like it's being done on purpose. Call me crazy. But I want to tell you this story. It was it was the most memorable case that I ever read about in the MUFON files. It was a case of a guy named Freddie. Freddie was about a 40-year-old Hispanic male who was thought to be dead. They thought he was lost at sea. He had a little boat that he liked to take out in the ocean, and little boats sometimes, get hurt out there because it's a big ocean. And so they thought that he was lost at sea. Well, the Coast Guard comes across the boat, finds nobody aboard. He's declared dead. Some years later, a man is driving down the highway. And as he's driving down the highway, he is being flagged down by a man. And the man is wearing a green one-piece jumpsuit that has no pockets. And it's green, he said, like a dark green. And he said that's why he stopped. He stopped because he thought that this guy was in the military and was flagging him down for a ride or for help. And of course, he was going to support this soldier however he needed. Well, turns out it's just a guy. And the guy walks over to him, and he said that the man looked odd. The man was hairless. He didn't have he had no hair on his head. He had no eyebrows. He only had eyelashes. And that his skin was a strange yellowish color. And he said the man spoke to him very thickly, as though he hadn't spoken in a long time. And he told the man in the car, he said he was told by this strange looking person in this green jumpsuit that he needed to turn his car around and go back the other way because there was about to be an earthquake. And the man said, well, how do you know that there's about to be an earthquake? Which is a logical response. And he said the strange man pointed off into the distance. And the man in the car said that behind this big shrub, he could see this silver football-shaped UFO. And he said, as he looked at it, he saw all these little orange triangles come out of the back of it and fly off in different directions. And he said, where are you from? And he said, I was taken by a module that you would call a UFO. Those were his words. I committed them to memory because they were so strange. He said, I was taken by a module known as a UFO. And he said that what had happened, apparently, was his boat ran into trouble out on the water. And he had his girlfriend and her child with them at the time. He took all of them, went out on the boat together. And what happened was they had been in a storm. The boat was in trouble. He said that a module known as a UFO appeared above him and took him. But the woman and the child had already been swept overboard. The man was the only one on board still. And he was rescued by a module known as a UFO, in that person's words. So the man thanked him, and he said, well, the reason we know is because we were out there in the water. We know that we felt it at the bottom where we were, and so we knew to move. And that's what they had done. Apparently, they had come up on land, and then he was flagging down people to try to turn them around to save people. So the man thanks him. He turns around. He leaves. Lo and behold, there's an earthquake. And then somehow, the guy was telling people about his experience, and he said his name. And they said, are you sure it's that guy? And he's like, well, that's what he said. And they said, what he looked like. And they pulled out a picture, a family reunion picture. So it wasn't like, oh, you look at a picture of him and go, yeah, that's him. No. He had to pick him out of a family reunion photo. And he said, well, he didn't have glasses on, but that's him. And pointed him out. And that was the guy, Freddie, who everyone had thought had died at sea, was actually alive. Hi, Gypsy. Thank you for joining us. I figured you'd be here. Nice to see you. And thank you, Starfish21, for your comments and for being here. And thank you, Chrissy, as always. Thank everybody who shows up. So the man asked him before he left, he said, well, where are you from? And he said, well, after I was taken from here, he said, I think that we're on Venus, but I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah. And they said, what about he asked him about the man and the woman, or the woman and the child that had been with him. And what happened to them. And he said, well, they were swept overboard before he was rescued. But he said, and this, I was like, ooh, he said they would not have survived the adaptation process. And he said he did look odd. Said that he was very yellowish looking, that he had no hair at all, and that he spoke very thickly, as though he hadn't spoken in a very long time. And he said he was wearing a strange thing on his wrist that looked kind of like a watch, but wasn't a watch. And my mind immediately went to like the pictures of the Anunnaki and stuff where they show them wearing those weird wristwatch looking things, but it's not a watch. And there was just so much truth in there. When I read the story, I could just tell that every word of that was the truth. And it was because so many of the variables that you use in investigation actually lined up with science accidentally. But again, they were like, well, we'll never know. Instead of saying that case has been solved, not only the case of if these beings exist, but also of what happened to this guy, what happened to him. I'm a little late, but I made it. Glad to be here. Well, glad to have you. Thank you so much. Um, so again, this is why I'm really pushing you to buy Beneath the Haunted Sky, the evidence for alien abduction, because I give us a clear path, a clear path. All of these people who are so-called UFO experts, well, and I'm not saying that some of them aren't, but what I'm saying is why hasn't anyone brought this up? We need to draw a scientific line in the sand and say yes or no, human or non-human. We need to be able to make that distinction. If we don't have an ability to make the distinction, then how are we ever going to know? Right? So we have these cases that just get stuffed under the rug, just hidden away. They're in a box instead of being publicized, instead of being talked about. And so this inhibits psychological acceptance of this fact. It's kind of like some of the stuff we're being like just weird stuff to me, like why haven't we been back to the moon? Anybody thought about that? Like, it's been like 50 years. You haven't been back to the moon in 50 years? Like, that's crazy, right? Why wouldn't you be back to the moon? What would I mean, you would think they would be selling shuttle trips to the moon by now. That it'd be like Futurama, where it's like a 2-hour drive. Like you could just go hang out at the moon, buy some merch, and come back, selfie or whatever. Like after 50 years, is there anything else that we did 50 years ago that we can't do now? I don't think so. So it's just weird stuff like that. And my theory, and it is a theory, but my theory is we went to the moon and found out it don't belong to us. Yeah, that guy up there belongs to somebody else. And they were there. And they may not have been happy to have uninvited guests. That could be very possible. And I think the reason that we haven't been back to the moon in 50 years is because we're waiting to get permission. I'm sorry. You could laugh that idea if you want to, but I'm gonna tell you what. There was a lot of bad stuff that seemed to go on. Did you see those guys? You should go look at the astronauts being interviewed. Their first interview, like their press conference after they got back from the moon, you should have seen their face. Those faces were the faces that sold me the house where I started getting abducted all the time. It was the same face. It was like they couldn't make eye contact. They were looking down. Nobody smiled. You just went to the moon and back and lived to tell the tale, and nobody cracked a smile. Nobody was joking around. Nobody was celebrating. It was haunted, you know. Their faces were haunted. I know that look. Yeah. And that was the look of guys who had seen something they did not expect to see. These were cocky astronauts who were ready for anything, and they ran into something they were not expecting at all. And that is scary. But it'd be a lot less scary now if people had started talking about it then. But they covered it up, and you could hear them cover it up. They're like, there is a Santa Claus that, oh, hey, you see these things? They look like campfires. They're everywhere. They're all along the ridgeline. Like, what do you think they're talking about? Palm trees? No, no. They were being watched every step of the way. I mean, it's just the truth. It's just the truth. We have videos of like things flying across the surface of the moon. Like, I mean, how naive are we willing to be, right? Where we say, well, that's not alien. Well, what's your scientific baseline? Uh, yeah. Well, it's hard to convince somebody who won't hold to hard data, right? Who keep moving the goalposts and saying, well, this is all true and is completely valid evidence, but it doesn't matter because we don't have a craft, because we don't have a body. Sorry, I gotta stop talking with my hands. I get very excited. I just, as an autistic person, this is what I do. I do this all day long. I'm sorry about that. I knocked you down. I hit you in the face. I'm so sorry. I'm an idiot. Um, but they keep moving the goalposts and saying, well, we have all this stuff that's completely true, but it doesn't prove anything. Well, we have all these videos, but they're not real. We have all these pictures, but they're all fake. Like, what? No. And even the stuff that they can't get around, the genuine article, then they say, oh, well, it does check off all these boxes, but we don't really have a scientific baseline, so we can just keep asking for more. And also, the other thing about it is they keep asking for more evidence, but without providing a way to get it. It's like telling me you need a sample of sunshine. Like, how am I supposed to do that? Would you like a lightning sample while I'm out? Because that's what I said in one of my other videos. The same scientific baseline that they use on UFOs, you couldn't prove the existence of lightning. You could swear up and down you've seen lightning, and they'd be like, nah. we need more evidence. We need more evidence of lightning, guys. What are you talking about? Right? So I take but it's true. It's true. You say, well, I've seen lightning. Well, I've seen UFOs. Well, we've taken pictures of lightning. We've taken pictures of UFOs. Well, I have videos of lightning. We have videos of lightning. We have videos of UFOs. You have videos of lightning. I have video of UFO. Well, I've been struck by lightning. Well, I've been abducted. Like, how far are we going to play this game before you go, oh, yeah? Because both UFOs and lightning are uncatchable. You're asking me to catch the wind. What you're asking for is unreasonable, right? What you're asking for is impossible. So they set an impossible standard instead of creating a standard within an acceptable range, right? They refuse to define the line at all and keep telling you that they're the expert, right? That's a good one. Excuse me. My voice is tired. I've been talking so much. I'm so excited about this, and I'm very excited to have your support and to have you here. Thank you so much. This live stream is brought to you by Beneath the Haunted Sky. Get it on Amazon, Kindle, or paperback. Please, let's make this a bestseller. Let's make it a number one bestseller. I live a mile from a hospital. Sorry if you hear sirens. But we need to bring awareness. We make this a number one bestseller in UFOs. People have to talk, and people are going to have to talk to me, and they're going to have to hear what I have to say. And what I have to say is completely different, because while yes, I have a story, I have a life of this. I've also been an investigator. I know what their standards are. I created new standards. I take on physics and tell you exactly how wrong they are, because that's the other part. We're so science blind that we see something that is superior science functioning in front of us, and our brain just short circuits, right? It just short circuits. We can't we can't even conceive that it's technology. That's magic, right? That's magic. Well, it is the magic of science, my friends. That's what we're talking about, the magic of science. And our science needs to get a lot better, because that's why none of our spells work. These people telling me they understand gravity. You understand nothing. You understand nothing. Because if you don't understand that gravity is a push, if you don't understand that gravity is the pressure of space time, if you don't understand that Newton saw an invisible force and he said it could be a push or a pull, and he guessed wrong. You could prove this. That Einstein didn't go back and check his theory. The math works. The math works because he was a brilliant mathematician. But even if you're a brilliant field theorist, you can't get everything right the first time around. No revision, no draft, no spell check, nothing. Really? Since 87? Is there anything else we have from 1687 that we're still doing the same way? Nope, just physics. Does that not scare you? Ordering your book tonight. Can't wait to. Oh, thank you. I can't wait to hear what you hear about it, because that's the other thing I want is I want to get feedback from people who have, a passion and a drive for the subject and for awareness and for disclosure. People who are experiencers and abduction survivors like me. We come here and tell your story. Tell your stories here, because I tell mine, and it's everybody's story that matters, not just mine, but I feel like mine has a lot of evidence to back it up where not everybody does, just because of circumstances. Um, but in my case, I'm like a UFO magnet. They're just around a lot. I mean, you saw the one I posted the other day in the community section right after the Jeff Mara uh, podcast. He asked me, do they know? Are they okay with this or whatever? And next morning, I'm like, come outside. Okay. So I go outside and yep, there they are. Click. There's the picture. And there it is, just right there in front of you. I mean, it's, they just show up. And I felt like they were showing up for you guys to let you guys know, yeah, this is okay. This is cool. It's all right. That it's time. I think that they would much rather prefer cooperation than this. I think it bothers them to do it like this, taking people in the middle of the night, like drug me or whatever they do, having to do this surreptitiously. It just, I think it feels bad. So disclosure is the right thing. Also, disclosure is about protecting the public too. That we have to know who and what to watch out for. We have to know what to watch out for. We have to be informed, because I got news for you guys. Now, some of you might not like me for saying it, but they're not all good guys out here. It's not all rainbows and lollipops in the universe, kids. I'm sorry to tell you that. And there are other experiences. If you look at what was the name of the mountain? Give me a second. The Dyatlov Pass incident. Yeah, on cue they showed up. It was like they didn't waste any time letting me know, like, hey, we're here for it. Take another picture, post it on there. Go ahead. So the Dyatlov Pass incident. This mountain is called, translated into Russian or into English, is Mount Don't Go There. What does that tell you? Mount Don't Go There. So these hikers were hardcore hikers, young folks, fit folks, tough folks, hiking together, Dyatlov Pass. The night before, orange orbs, or orange spheres, were seen all around the mountain. And then You hear about what happened to these guys. None of them survived. And the injuries were horrific and unexplainable. The person who led the investigation, who was a very clever man, very capable investigator, actually quit because they wouldn't accept his conclusion. And his conclusion was that something had come from the air and had done this to these people and had left the same way. It was the only logical conclusion that could be made. They rejected his conclusion and he quit. You see what I mean? Like everywhere you turn, you're being huckabucked, but it's at our expense. And that's the thing I have a problem with, is it being done at our expense, because people will be unsuspecting. People will be uninformed. People will be naive and they'll go, oh, everything in the universe is love. Zap. Like, no, it's not. I'm sorry. It's not, you know? And people make these assumptions because they want them to be true. And the reason they can make these assumptions is because we have no evidence to give them. We're not bringing forward evidence, and we're not pushing it and making people acknowledge the evidence using a scientific baseline that we can hold them to, that we can hold ourselves to. That's important, to make sure that if you're bringing evidence, you're bringing stuff that fits within the parameters of acceptable and the highest quality that we can get. But we already have it, scads of it. What we need is the baseline. That's what we need. We need a committed baseline in science, which I provide in Beneath the Haunted Sky. And you can read about that and you can argue with it, whatever, or agree with it, whatever. But at least we're getting the conversation going. At least I'm mentioning it, you know. And that's what we have to do. We have to start asking these scientists, what's your baseline for human to non-human? And watch them have a stroke trying to come up with an answer because they don't have one. Yeah. You know, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Well, I think we understand gravity. Yeah? You understand gravity? Make some. Defy some. Manipulate gravity. Reverse gravity. Could do none of those things because they don't understand gravity. And the reason they don't understand gravity is because they have proceeded from Newton's field theory, which was not based on complete information. You see, at the time that Newton was alive, they didn't know that we had a big magnetic core at our center, and we had a magnetosphere, and we have a north and a south pole, and we rotate, generate, electricity from a spin. That basically we're a giant magnet, and we're an electromagnet at that. Well, I mean, I think that might have changed his theory some on what was actually causing this perceived attraction. And that is what it is attraction, but it is from an opposite application of force, where gravity is actually a push. It's the pushing down of space-time on all sides around an object. That's why all objects end up round. Don't believe your flat earther friends. We're not a pizza in the middle of the ball pit. It's not like that. I mean, you're going to tell me that the moon is round, the sun is round, Saturn's round, every other planet and celestial body's round, just us. We're just us. We're the flat ones. Okay. Well, but in all seriousness, that's why everything in the universe ends up round as a shape, because space-time is constantly trying to get in, and it is the magnetic cohesion of matter that is forcing space out around it. So it builds up around the object, and this curvature is the perceivable displacement of space-time. That's really what gravity is. And so gravity is pushing down. It's not pulling from inside the planet. It's pushing down all around the outside. That's what gravity is. I go into this in some pretty in-depth detail in the book. The first 60 pages are it's pretty hardcore science. I think it's understandable by most people if you take your time and you don't rush through it like a Zane Grey novel, and you just, take your time, read the sentence, really read what I'm saying. I think you'll understand. Agree or disagree, but I think you'll understand. So I try to do that at least. But I feel like I make a pretty compelling case for the fact that our physics is wrong. And if our physics is wrong, it's no wonder we can't recognize UFOs as superior technology from somewhere else. No wonder that we can't do that. No wonder that we can't even some of us can't even conceive of the idea of a species from another planet being so incredibly technologically proficient and advanced that they could come and visit us. It's unthinkable because we don't know what we're talking about. We don't know we don't know science. And we have to change that. On cue, they showed up. Yeah, they did. I think it's about DNA collection before the next reset. So, yeah, um, that has been what mine is about. I know that there are lots of different roles and stuff that um, like for instance, females sometimes donate eggs, or donate. I'm sorry, I don't mean they have eggs taken from them. You're not donating; you're having them taken. Uh, but uh, sperm collection for men. Some women are um, used as like incubators for the fetus um, for like a while, and so I'll just tell you what I do know about that. They showed me um, that so they were telling me what happens when evolution stops being your friend, right? And like, what do you do about that? And they were showing me what they are reduced to. And so what they do is they will impregnate a human female with a fetus and have the human female carry the fetus for a while, but only for a little bit. And then they'll take the fetus from them. And that woman will think she miscarried, or they'll just feel that loss and see it later. And then what they do is they take that partially developed fetus and put it into a cylinder that has like pipes going from it and stuff, and they incubate the young that way. And they're doing this because he said the females can't or have trouble conceiving, and they can't carry their young fully to term without they give live birth like we do, and they can't give birth without it killing them. So it's just really too hard on the females to really um, keep having young. So they kind of have found ways around um, how they do it. And part of that is they're trying to reset their genetic clock. They're trying to reset evolution back uh, as far as they can, but still maintain their intellect and their telepathy and all that kind of stuff. Um, and they figured out basically how much they can mix with us and still maintain their intellectual and telepathic superiority, but also have the body, the stronger body of a human, the stronger immune system, uh, things like that. The stronger heart, their hearts give out on them, I guess, is what usually gets them. Um, but there's a lot to know about them, and we have to talk about it. We have to share what we know, and everybody's story is important. I feel like we all get a piece of the puzzle. Like they showed me these things as to letting me know that's why they were taking my DNA, um, which I mean it made sense. Um, like when they said that, I didn't understand what he was saying at first. He said, "What do you do when evolution stops being your friend?" And I'm like, "Evolution's your friend, right? Like evolution's your friend." And he's like, "What happens when it stops being your friend?" He's like, "What's going on is that our brains are evolving out of control, and we have all these abilities and everything. But as our brains get bigger, they get more powerful. Our bodies keep getting smaller and weaker and less virile, less virile, and unable to carry young and unable to, have a strong immune system, and all these things get compromised. Because of the reduction of the body size, it reduces the size of the organs that must keep it alive. And this places an enormous stress on the system. And that this was happening at a rate that they predicted was going to happen ahead of time. They knew that this was happening to them. They realized it. And so they had to set about a plan to try to head it off at the pass. And that's where some of us came in. As I was talking about with, having pale skin and blue eyes. As somebody said, I can't believe they said this either. I was like, come on, man. They're like, oh, well, some people evolved pale skin and blue eyes so they could create more vitamin D in the winter. I was like, what? What? You get, first of all, let me just say that you create vitamin D by absorbing the sun, not reflecting it. This would actually be against your little argument. So would the blue eyes. Blue eyes are much less receptive to the light. It like bounces all around in there. It's like a disco ball behind each one of my eyes in there in the summertime. That's not an advantage. It's not an advantage. I have never ever said, man, I'm glad I'm pale. I never have. Not one time, It's the evidence that we're partially combined with them. That we're like severely allergic to our environment. Sometimes, like me, you hear how stuffed up I'm allergic to things, like cats, but I love them, so I don't care. But we're allergic to things that are foreign because we haven't built up a tolerance or an acceptance for those things in our environment, right? How do you not build up a tolerance for the sun? How do we not have a coat on us to protect us from the sun, from the wind, from the rain, from the cold, from the heat? Nothing. We have all these things about us that kind of don't make sense. And then but nobody wants to accept the fact that there's literal historical proof in the book of Enoch that we were meant, that we've been combined with something, that God made an insemination from the book of Enoch. By the way, the first person in history to speak in first person. I was there. I saw. I went. I met. That's very important. He's the first person. He's the first person in history to speak in first person. That's really important. It's not secondhand. He wrote it down as he saw it. And he said that Noah was born of a combination of Patanosh, a human female, and God. And who was born? Noah, the first person in recorded history, in first person recorded history, to have pale skin and blue eyes. Out of people who were brown people. Right? So, how did that happen? And why were they doing it? They were trying to create a line to make themselves from. Oh, hi, Jips. I'm glad you're a cat person. Meow. Cats are the only people I trust. But we have these historical notes. We've been told these things. We just keep refusing to believe them. Yeah, that we've been told over and over. We've been told over and over that, hey, gods keep coming down to earth and having children with us. Oh. It's just fairy tales, folk tales. I mean, even look at some of the Navajo or like the, is it Navajo? But I know it's Native American legends of the Star Children, right? These Native American women would go sleep out under the full moon, and someone would come down and make love to them, and then they would give birth to a star child, which would stay with them for a little while and then be taken away. I mean, we keep being told these stories. We won't accept them. We won't accept them because we don't want to accept our own helplessness, do we? We don't want to know that maybe there isn't much we can do about a certain situation, but what we can do is confront it. We can admit it. The first part of beating a problem is admitting you have one, right? And we need to admit that there's a lot of problems here. We have to admit that not everybody out there maybe is a good guy. We have to admit that maybe we are not who we thought we were. Maybe we have it all wrong. And I think we do in so many ways. But what I say, this is the part where you have hope, because all of these things are fixable. That's what I'm grateful for. We can fix these things. And we do that with logic. We do that with science. We do that with love. But we do it with truth. That's what's important. Do it with love, but do it in truth. But do it. And that's what we have to do. We have to spread awareness. We have to be aware of our surroundings. I in the book I talk about something that happened while I was in the woods. I guess everybody has a "this happened to me in the woods" story, but one of the first things you learn in survival is how to be aware of your environment, right? Because it can be what you don't see that gets you. You have to be extremely aware, hyper aware, while you're out in an unfamiliar territory. The earth is our territory, and we need to be very aware of our surroundings. We cannot afford to ignore it. This problem, it will not go away. I'll tell you that. It will not go away just because we're not paying attention, just because we don't want to change our mind. You see, we've built our physics. It's like building a new house on a foundation from 1687. Are you trusting that? I'm not. I'm not. We need to rip it up. We need to start over. We need to put down something new, something better, something stronger, right? And that's what I really try to do with Beneath the Haunted Sky, because it's time for a change. I feel like there's probably a lot of hybrid projects floating around out there. Yeah. So here's what they're doing. This is their agenda, and I go into it in some detail. But basically, they tweaked us, and it didn't work, and they didn't like it. So they decided that they were going to combine us with them and try to kill everybody else. That's what the flood was about, the great melt. And right about the time Noah was born is right about the time of the great melt. And it's right about the time the first time person in history is born with pale skin and blue eyes. Right? All of that happened at the same time. Who thinks that's a coincidence? It's not. So when I've always said that there's not races, but two kind of different people, and it's the sons and daughters of Adam and Eve, and then the sons and daughters of Noah. It's like our line is split like that, and it's been because of interference with our DNA, and part of that DNA evolved somewhere else, and so it's expressed as traits that make us not be able to fit in with every other creature on Earth. Like, we don't have any natural protection. We have no natural defense. We have no natural weapons. We have very dull senses compared to other animals. I mean, even when you look at superheroes and stuff, they often will have the abilities of animals, because compared to us, animals are superhuman. We're the weakest, palest, most hairless, helpless things. on the planet, yet we're the most highly evolved. That's very interesting to me, because when you are so poorly adapted to your environment that you have to rely on technology to stay alive, you have devolved out of your environment. You are unevolved. You are the least evolved. You might be the smartest. Your brain could be the most highly evolved, but that's it. That's it. That's all. The rest of you is pretty much worthless. You take the average person and you throw them naked out into the woods with nothing. Well, we know what's going to happen to them, don't we? It's a death sentence. Can you say that about any other animal? I can't. You could take a cat that's been a house cat and you throw it out in the woods and it will turn feral. Its instincts will kick in. Its senses will become attuned. Its muscles will become strong and sleek. It will find a way to survive. A house cat can do that. None of us can do it. Now, you give me a knife out in the woods, it's going to suck, but we can make it happen, right? But I've spent 20 some odd years learning all those things to turn a whistle into a watch and have it sing you the time out in the woods if you need it to. Yeah. But in general, if you threw me out there with nothing, I'm dead. I'm dead. And so are you. You know, nobody can go out and survive with absolutely nothing. And we're the only creature on the planet that's like that. Why do you think that is? It's because we've had these natural things kind of taken away, adjusted, tweaked, combined. And we are a chimera species. I got more to say here. Let's keep going. So I wanted to encourage you guys, if you wanted to join the Patreon, please feel free to check the links in the community section. Join the Discord. I put the link up in the community section today. And I appreciate. Thank you so much to those who have bought Beneath the Haunted Sky, the evidence for alien abduction. I think you're going to find out I'm not overstating the book. If anything, I'm kind of underselling it, if anything. But there are other people out here who have a lot of stories and experiences that they've been like pushed to the side. Like, for instance, one of the guys who really helped me understand how wrong we were in physics is a guy named Boyd Bushman. He's dead now, but if you go look up Boyd Bushman experiment, he did this very cool but simple thing that told me everything. He said he took these two very strong magnets and he turned the like poles toward each other, which would normally repel. And what he did was he screwed them together tightly. And then he took an object of the same weight and approximate mass and dropped it off a building. And the two magnets facing each other dropped noticeably slower. It defied gravity. Yeah, very interesting. That magnetism affects gravity. That was what was so important about what he did. This, he said, was based on principles that were from extraterrestrial craft that he had seen, that he had worked on, that he knew about. And then there's another guy named William Tompkins. He's a former engineer for McDonnell Douglas, Lockheed Martin, and NASA. I think he's got his respects. And he said what I said, that what I was told, there's about 23 different species of extraterrestrial. And he worked, and this is part of something called Project Camelot. Look into that. I'm not 100% on what that is, but I just know that the phrase Project Camelot came up with it. But he said, yeah, that there's about 20 some different species and they don't all like us. And that's why they don't like us, is because we're a chimera. We're considered like bastard species. We're we're an abomination to some of them. Some of them are neutral toward us, and some of them like us just fine. My personal experience with the Greys has been I can trust them. Every interaction has not been it's not been violent. The one I scared, he just knocked me out. He just put me out. You don't want a gorilla waking up on the table in the middle of something. Like, no, like it wasn't violent. It was for everybody's safety. Well done. When I met one of my little guys, they brought one of my children to see me. She did knock me out when it was over. Like, fair enough. Okay. Turn off the lights, just be extra safe. And then, they actually like stood me in the middle of a room and one came up and touched me right here and called me, he said, guardian, you know, like like I was being given a title or knighted or something. I felt like I had won best in show. Is that weird? That's weird, right? I felt like I had won best in show. Like they were like, this is the one. This is this guy, in that order. Whenever you watch those shows. But in all seriousness, though, there was a time. I'll tell you about this. There was one time I had broken a couple of my toes on my foot. I had a sword box in the floor. I'm fond of sharp objects, and someone got me a sword for Christmas. And the box was still on the floor. And as I was walking through, I cracked my foot on it, and it was a wooden box, and it broke two of my toes. And one night I look out and I see, oh, you're out there. Yeah, hello. And so I knew what was going to happen. Well, I ended up waking up later with the abduction hangover I talk about in the book. And I went to get up. I was dreading getting up because I was going to have to go wash my face, brush my teeth, wash my hands, the whole thing, splash water on me. And I was dreading getting up because I knew my foot was going to hurt. And I was like, oh, wait, it doesn't hurt. I looked down at it and it was healed. Like it was so like black and purple and bruised. Now it was just one or two little tiny, barely perceptible orange streaks where it was purple and black the night before because they were so hurt. And my socks weren't on anymore. And they were laid like two little L's right under it. I woke up laying on them and they were like perfectly flat pressed onto the pillow, like they had returned them that way or whatever. Like that's how they've dealt with me. One time they had taken me and I had like overeaten before I went to bed. I ate like all the Rice Krispies on planet Earth, and I guess I got sick. Something maybe because they had me on my back or something, I started getting sick, and I was throwing up cereal and everything. And they like, I remember them like cleaning me up. They touched me. It was like just the softest touch. Like it felt really nice actually, but they were just like so soft. And like I could feel them like gross, but like I could feel them like picking like pieces of cereal off me or whatever, and like gentle like a baby. I trust them. I don't necessarily agree. I wish this had been a cooperative thing because this violates every human boundary. That's why it's so important to talk about this, because this violates every single sacred human boundary. You shouldn't be allowed to come into my house. You shouldn't be allowed to take me. You shouldn't be allowed to extract my DNA. You shouldn't be allowed to do these things. My body, my fucking choice. My body, my choice. And I would like to be given the choice. I would like to be asked properly. But these beings aren't. And it is because of desperation. They are gentle and they are non-combative creatures. But what they're doing out of desperation. They don't have time to ask. They have to select and choose, and they can't because of their standards or whatever it is that they're going for, the traits that they're looking for. They can't afford for you to say no. So they just take. Now, before we get too up on our high horse here, let's remember how we treat lower species than us, or what we perceive as lower species. Yeah. We do whatever we want. We'll take a moose, abduct it, tranquilize it, knock it down, cart it off in a truck, tag it, put it back somewhere else. Like, we do that too. And nobody feels sorry for the moose, right? Nobody feels sorry for the duck. Nobody feels sorry for creatures lower than us, just us. And I find that to be a bit hypocritical. So I try to keep that in mind, that what is being done may be against my will, but it is being done with the mindset of doing the least amount of harm while they do it. That, I believe, is trustworthy. That I can trust you. If you tell me something, I'll believe you, as long as it makes sense, right? And that's what I have found, is everything they've told me makes sense. It's not some weird stuff that you can't relate to or anything. It's like real practical things that tend to line up with biology and science and history and all these things. Like, oh, yeah, that all makes perfect sense. There's no way I could weave together this whole narrative myself. I'm not that imaginative, you know. Um, but so it's important that we start talking about these things, that other people share their stories. Um, I wanted to do next time I do a live stream or something, maybe I'll do a Discord after, where people talk about how they deal with their abductions. Like, what do you do to like make yourself feel better, or how do you get over that abduction hangover feeling, or how is that expressed for you? Um, we need to find out, people who read the book, look at the symptoms, look at the photographs I show you of some of the abduction marks I receive. See if yours match. Have you ever had any marks like that? Because that's one of the other things I put in there, is how to kind of maybe know if you've been taken. And they have certain things like this common, like missing time and things like that. But I have actual marks that show up on me when I'm abducted. They're the same marks that show up on me practically in the same place every time. They're the same marks though, and I've had them for years. And I have take a few pictures of them to show you, like, over time, me getting them and having these marks that I can't explain. Uh, I think they drug you. They hit you with something, maybe to keep you asleep while you're transported, or to keep you in the state that you're in. Um, but I've had these marks every time I've been abducted. That's the first thing I do when I wake up and I think that something has happened. I look for the marks and I'm like, oh, yep, there they are. My little snake bites um, that I get whenever I'm taken. And so, see, these are the hallmarks of someone. Like, you hear people talk about stuff, but man, when you're really taken, like, you have specifics. There's like little things, that other people don't know. They would have no idea. They couldn't even imagine it. So these things I want to show them, because they're the hallmarks of people who are telling the truth, who are having real experiences. Like, these guys give me things. They gave me these stones. Like, I don't know why. I still never figured that out. But they've given me these black stones that I've dubbed the knowing stones. Why? I don't know. And I can just tell you I don't know. Now, I can't make up a reason or whatever. I can only tell you what I get told, and I don't get told everything. I've just always held on to them. I had a cigar box full of these, but my son, uh, he saw the movie Knowing, and he saw how, like, there were black stones that were connected to these extraterrestrials. He's like, "You have a bunch of those, don't you?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he said, "Can I have them?" And I was like, "Yeah, you can have them." I thought it was okay. Um, but these are the ones I've collected since then. Since I gave them all away, I still have an entire handful of them that I've received at different times. When you watch the Jeff Mara podcast, I want you to look for a certain moment, because somebody said, oh, after you mentioned, the knowing stones or whatever, he got, oh, it was a mess up. I'm like, no, watch for a moment. He's asking me about the knowing stones. We're talking about them. And he says, do you ever receive these stones in different places? Like right in the middle in front of your front door? And you see me go like that. And I was like, and my look is because I was like, how do you know that? Because that's exactly what happened to me on one of them. I got two of them. I got two of these stones within 72 hours of each other. I had moved from one place to another. And I asked myself, I was like, I wonder if they know I've moved already. And when I got there to spend for my first night, this stone right here, it's beautiful. This stone right here was sitting on my welcome mat directly in the exact center of the mat in front of the front door for no reason. I took it as a good omen. So I picked it up and I was like, oh, all right, I'll hang on to it. And so somebody else was asking me where the stone came from. And I was like, I don't know where it came from. Because unlike some other supposed abductees, I don't know everything. Some of them have an answer for everything. It fascinates me. It also makes me very suspicious of them. But anyway, I was like, oh, I don't know where it came from. And so it made me ask. I was like, I felt that they were around, and I was like, are you guys are the ones giving me these, right? It's you guys doing it, right? And so that next night, uh, I was taken, I was abducted, and that's when they did the thing where I said they touched me and said guardian. Well, that night, or you know, that early that next morning, I wake up and I'm like going to make coffee and stuff, and I felt something in my pocket while I was walking, and this stone was in my pocket, shaped exactly like their head. This is what their head looks like. That's the shape. I mean, the shape, the proportion, everything. Um, it's like, oh, I want this like mounted into like a bracelet or something so I could wear it because I love it. But it was like the most clever answer to my question. I'm like, you guys are the one giving these to me, right? And they're like, giving one that looks like us, like he needs to be hit with a brick. And so they gave it, and I woke up with it in my pocket after the ceremony. This is my guardian stone. I have the knowing stones, which are these. You know, these are my knowing stones. Can you see those? They're just black, smooth river stones. And then this is my guardian stone that they gave me that night. Isn't it cool? It's just like such a cool, interesting, very unique looking stone. I've never seen anything quite like it. I love all the stones and everything, but this one has a special, like, strange color about it. It has a vibe, you know, it has a vibe to it. And that's my guardian stone. These guys have given me tangible objects. In the book, one of the most interesting things, and I'm gonna go here maybe in a little bit. I'm sorry I've been talking your ear off. I just have a lot to talk about. It's all been like pent up for years, and now that I have people to talk to, I want to talk to you. Let's see. A little woo, but this reminds me of astral travel or maybe Kabbalah even. I don't know anything about Kabbalah. I've heard people mention that before, but I don't know anything about it. Um, love how your mind works, Sarah. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad somebody does because usually I'm busy being a pain in people's butts, like physicists and, astrophysicists and, you know, supposed experts and stuff. Um, I believe you because in my dreams, they have shown me similar things, the dying too fast, etc. Yeah, it's like their hearts give out, their immune systems are practically non-existent, they're physically diminutive, injuries are bad. Um, you know, they just have so many problems that they're trying to reverse course on evolution. Um, let's see. I felt a lot of energy coming off the one that's shaped like an extraterrestrial head. Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, because this thing, it's got a vibe to it. I don't know what it is, but like you can almost like see like it has an aura or something. Like, and I'm not like big on that, but like that's got something to it, and I don't know what it is. I just mentioned that. Yeah, y'all, you said it. Well, oh, you said it when before I did. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, there's something about that one that not only the memory of it, but also the way I got it and then the shape of it. Like it's just they really, really wanted to let me know, yes, it's us leaving you the stones. It's a stone that looks like us. So that way you can't forget. You know? It was a beautiful gift. And I treasure it. I really do. There's in the book, there's a picture in that book that is maybe the most important UFO photograph ever taken. And I don't say that lightly. That is not hyperbole. All right. One of the pictures in the book, you can see their technology. You can see the circuitry. The craft looks like it's built with like wafers of circuits, like circuit boards that are like stacked on top of each other, one over another. And you can literally see the circuits and you can see some of the components. That's how good the picture is. I ran it by an engineer friend of mine, and he was like, What was the size of this thing, you guess?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know, 30 feet. Not enormous, but about 30 feet, based on the perceived distance and the size of the object in the picture. You do some calculations, about 30 feet." And he said, he's like, "That's not an enormous size thing, but for that amount of technology to be that size is undoable. It's undoable for by human standard." He's like, "I'm an electrical engineer. I know what maybe a couple of them things are, but that's next level." And you can see that picture in Beneath the Haunted Sky. I fill that thing with photographs that I've taken for the past 17 years or so. Like 17 years of some of the best photographs. And I even show you ground trace effects. I match the ground trace effects to the shapes in the sky. They match like a fingerprint. I mean, I go. This is a tour de force of UFO investigation and archives. Like I give you my best. If you were in the government, you would have to have a security clearance above top secret to access the level of evidence that's in that book. That's how good it is. And I say that with no ego. It's because I poured my heart and soul into this. I'm very good at collecting data, analyzing it, cross matching, pattern recognition, perception, logic, deductive reasoning. These are my gifts. And that seems to be very good for investigating your own stuff and the subject in general. So I can't tell you how grateful I am that you guys have all showed up and showed me so much love and support, and I appreciate you for it. Um, Follow the links. Try to get more involved in the community. Watch out for my community tab posts. I do those pretty often. I always want to give you something to think about, something to look at. A new angle on a certain subject. Just kind of whatever's rattling around up here at the time, but it's usually interesting. Um, Join the Discord. The links on my community tab. Check the community tab, and you'll see it in the posts. Um, Consider joining my Patreon. Um, and yeah, you tell them. Come here, baby. Come here. My Bengal, she's the jealous one. She's the daddy's girl. I love her to pieces. Her name is Princess Naja, and I love her. Yes, I do. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. There's my age. Oh, let's show Princess Naja. There she is. This my baby. This my baby. Say hello, everybody. Hello. She's my girl. Um, she's being shy. Say bye bye. Oh, that's my girl. But she tells me what to do. She rules with an iron paw. Hey, Kitty. um, but I would appreciate you like joining the Discord. I'm not great at it yet. I'm just kind of learning it. So help me out. Join up, and I want to have different discussions over there that I have here. Um, because I feel like I want people to be able to be honest over there, because I want it to be Princess Raja. Oh, that Princess Raja and Princess Naja. That's nice. Um, but I want to have a little bit different conversations over there. I want people to feel that they have the room and the support to kind of open up, to kind of let their own experiences out if they'd like to. And I'd like to create a safe environment for that. My Patreon, it's a lot of science. It's updates on what I'm doing, which has been a lot lately. Um, Keeping you up to date on new developments, stuff that I have kind of in the vault. I don't always share everything on YouTube. I abhor social media. I will not participate. My autism just will not allow me to do it. I tried. It's not for me. But so I like to use other platforms. I think YouTube's great. I really like the Discord kind of thing. I like the Patreon kind of thing. It's very nice because you get people who are into certain things, but maybe not everything. And so you can kind of pick and choose what you'd like to do and how you'd like to participate. So I want to offer as many ways to do that as possible. Now, the way that I do this is through your support. So buy the book, get the Kindle or the paperback. Doesn't matter to me which one you get. Somebody bought both. I know who you are. You're not fooling anybody. You thought you like whizzed that right by me. I caught it. But I think for me, I'm a tactile person. I like books. I like to open books and turn pages. And I like to have a book. Some people are real screen oriented. They don't want to have a whole bookshelf full of books. They just want to be able to tab through. I tried to make the best format possible in both of those ways. So whether you get either one, I feel like you're going to visually like it, that it's going to have an impact, and that it's going to be something you come back and look at time and time again. And maybe if you're being good, you show it to other people. All right. So please do consider becoming active, involved, and supportive in any way that you would like, to keep the live streams coming. And by the way, somebody said earlier, they're like, you should get on this podcast or that podcast. And I'm like, I don't get on podcasts. Podcasts get me on there. And I don't mean that to be like a dick or nothing like at all. I'm just saying, like, I don't do that. Um, so if somebody wants me on the show, like, go tell them to have me on the show. I don't go ask to be a guest. It's rude. You see, this is my autism. It is rude to ask to be a guest. If someone wants you to be a guest, you are only a guest when you are invited by them. That's the way the process should go in my head. So if you have a show that you want me on, go tell them to ask me to be on the show. And I will, most likely, because I feel like there's a lot to talk about and a lot to say. I mean, we're like an hour and a half in. I haven't even touched everything I wanted to talk about, But I'm running out of voice at the moment. Well, I appreciate you guys too. Excuse me. I haven't slept in like 2 days. I've just been so overwhelmed with kindness. I just can't stop reading the positive messages. I can't stop responding to good people who have taken the time to say something to me. I feel like I have to take the time to say something back to each and every one. You all deserve that same level of respect. And I don't care how many subscribers I get or how many patrons or how many people are in the Discord or how many emails I get. I want to answer everyone. Everyone should get an answer if they need one. Sometimes people just say, hey, just love what you're doing, keep it up or whatever. But so I've been up for a while just doing my due diligence on that, because you guys are important too. And so I hope you feel that way. And I hope you feel that you are treated that way, because that is my goal. Is I want to treat everyone with the respect and the dignity and the support that I want. You have to give away the things you want in this world if you want to get them. And I am, you know. And so I think it's good to just kind of keep that going. So please pick up the book. I want to know what you think about the book too. I don't want you to just buy it. I don't want you to just read it. I want you to buy it, read it, come back and talk to me. Okay? And tell me how it affected the way you see the subject. I think that I think that you're going to come away going, oh, I thought some of these people were legit, and I think maybe they're not. That we think differently about the species that are coming to this planet. That we think differently about the phenomena that we are witnessing, recording, and sharing with each other, yet refusing to believe. I think that it's going to change the way you see that how science treats the subject. And I think that it should change the way that you see people who are alien abductee experiencers and trauma survivors. We deserve our respect. We deserve to be heard, and we deserve to be believed, especially when people are going to the trouble like I have to bring forth the best evidence, to capture every scrap of evidence I possibly can, to bring you every single thing that I've been given or experienced as a collection or a set of abduction experiences that you can draw from and compare them to others, and we can get a baseline. We can get this conversation moved in the right direction, more than a shoulder shrug. That's all you ever get out of physicists, out of these so-called experts. We get, well, David Grush went and testified before Congress. And yeah, and what did that do? It didn't move the needle a bit. See, we're trying to get the people in power to do what we should be doing for ourselves, which is we should be empowering ourselves, we should be informing each other, and we should be supporting each other. If we do that, what the hell do we need them for? We don't wait for science to tell us what science is. We tell science to prove itself. We tell science it needs to clean up its house, get its house in order, because that's the only way we're going to be able to deal with this subject. We have a lot of messes to clean up, but we need to get to it, right? So I'm going to go for now. Thank you for sharing with us. We appreciate you. I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for your support. It means the world to me. It really does. And I feel like this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. I'm so excited about that. Yes, thank you. You have so much to share. Truth. Thank you. I feel like I got that a lot from folks who watched the Jeff Mara podcast, that they were like, oh man, like I totally believe you. And I'm like, yeah, because there's something about telling the truth that you go, I recognize that. That's what the truth looks like. And then now you start comparing it to other people, and I don't know, you know, I don't know. I'm not sure that they're all being on the level with you. We rise by lifting and supporting others. That's right. That's right. And I feel risen and very supported by you guys. And it's just the beginning of the great things that are to come. Okay. Um, so I want you to take care of each other, and everyone needs to be kind. And even if other people aren't, we got to be kind back. We don't fight fire with fire. We fight fire with water. Right. So that's what we have to do, because at the end of the day, I'm not here to convince you. I'm here to inform you. You can choose to be informed or not, but I'm not trying to sell you like anything. I'm giving you information that you can buy for $9.99 that you couldn't get if you were a congressman. I'm just saying, like, I'm giving it to you and you have the opportunity to be informed, but I'm not here to try to convince anyone. I don't need to convince anyone to know for myself to make me feel validated. But it is nice when people do, that you see that it wasn't for nothing, that you didn't go through it all for nothing, that other people are going to get the benefit of this, and they'll be able to have the evidence of this. They'll be able to have the knowledge, the evidence, the education, the wisdom, and therefore the foresight that they would not have ordinarily had. Yeah. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you guys. I love you. Thank you so much for this. All right. And I'm going to be talking to you again soon. I want to make Beneath the Haunted Sky, The Evidence for Alien Abduction, the #1 bestseller in UFOs on Amazon. That is my goal. We got to just ring that bell one time, man. Let's just ring that bell one time, right? And if you haven't subscribed, please do consider liking and subscribing and even sharing if you'd like. But I want to change the way you see the world. I want to change the way you see science, and I want to change the way you see the universe. I'm RL Poole. Have a great night.